Welcome to the School Zone, the show all about your local high school districts here in the White Mountains. I'm your host, John Larsen. Today we have a very special guest. We have John Kashner with us. He is the new Show Low Unified School District AD, Athletic Director. John, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome to
Pleasure
the show.
to be here. Thank you.
Do me a favor. You're kind of new to us all. Please tell us about yourself. Give us a good intro on you.
Sure. Well, I was born in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, which is about 60 miles from Philadelphia, 75 miles from New York City. In a steel town, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania was Bethlehem Steel, home of Bethlehem Steel. I went to high school at Liberty High School until it got to be too large. As we were discussing earlier, my junior year we graduated 1,400 students, and so very competitive athletically. I played football there. Then when they opened a new school, Freedom High School, I also ran football and track there, and graduated and went on to play football in college at Kutztown State University, and signed with the Philadelphia Eagles in 1972 and proceeded to get cut, and that started my educational career. I was a fourth grade teacher in Hamburg, Pennsylvania, for 1 year, and coached at a brand new football program there in Hamburg, Pennsylvania. And then I got hired at Kutztown State University, and I coached college football there for 4 years. I still taught on and off fourth grade. And then I took a head football job in the heart of the coal regions of Pennsylvania in North Schuylkill School District. They were building a brand new school and bringing two separate schools together, Ashland and Frackville, to a joint brand new school, but the school wasn't open ready yet, so I had to teach fourth grade for 1 year there, and then I became the aquatics director. They built an indoor pool, and so I was there for 3 years, and then was going to take a college job, and we found out the head coach wasn't going to be rehired, so we were all going to be out of jobs, and I was having my second child. So a buddy of mine was coaching at Casa Grande High School in Casa Grande, but was going back to medical school, and he called me up and said, hey, this job is open, but they've done interviews already, but call the athletic director, he's a good guy. And I called him, and because we had coached together in college and ran the same schemes, they were interested. I interviewed over the phone, and I was offered the job. I drove out here on July 4th weekend and in 1979, and I coached football there for 7 years, and then worked in the administrative team for a little bit. And then I took the head football job at Flowing Wells School District, and I was there for 8 years. And then I was offered the assistant principal's job and head football coach at Coolidge. And I was that for 3 years, and one day the superintendent came in and said, we need a new junior high principal, you're it. And I said, I really don't want to do that, because I always felt as a principal, you lose contact with the kids. In fact, that was probably the best job I ever had, because I was a disciplinarian and worked with curriculum as the assistant principal. So I knew all the children and all the kids, and then after school, we would start practice later, 6:30. I was the football coach, so it got me to relieve all my tensions, and everything was built up that builds up in a school day. So it was a great job. And then I became a principal, and I was the junior high principal for, I think it was 5 years, and then they came to me and said, we're going to build a brand new school, Coolidge's first brand new school in 50 years. So I got to design and outfit and hire a whole new staff for a brand new middle school, 6 through 8, and I did that. And while I was doing that, I ended up starting a company, K&S Sports Promotions Incorporated, which was a sports apparel company, and we incorporated in 2001. And it basically drove me, even though I had 35 years in education, so I retired and ran the business. And about 5 years ago, I retired from that, turned it over to my children. And just in the last 2 weeks, I sold the company and my building. And I'm here in Show Low. I used to come here all summers for 3-4 months, and the opportunity came up, and it's just sort of my way of giving back for all the years of people given to me and putting me where I am.
Well, to explain a little bit, we created in the Show Low district a position of district athletic director. So we no longer have an athletic director just for the high school and one just for the junior high.
Correct.
Now we have this one position that takes care of all of our sports directing that needs to be done throughout the district. So you're our first one. We hope that you stay with us for a really long time, but we know that the idea is that you're going to come in and create this and form it and develop it to what we need it to be, what we want it to be, and hopefully we'll be able to find someone internally, hopefully, but if not, we'll find the right person with the same vision to continue the program, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, and I want to give props to Dave Nichols, who's the going out high school athletic director. They had one at the junior high as well, who was a dean, who did a wonderful job. When they created this, you know, there was a vision. I don't think some of the tools were in place, but needless to say, my goal was to get the program off the ground, put the pieces in place, so when it opens again, that it is an athletic department, and that's what we've tried to put together. We have a team now. The scope is we've hired a young lady who works for the school district, who's now has an assignment as equipment manager, and we hope to eventually make that into a district equipment manager, where able to purchase and do the equipment. She's learning to do inventory. I brought a gentleman up who is a nationally certified equipment manager to work with her so that she can work toward getting certified. It's about a 3-year process, but that way she can, you know, not only know the proper fitting of equipment, but, you know, knowing when, for example, a wrestling mat its life has gone out of it and it's a safety issue. And a lot of the equipment manager's job is looking at safety issues. We had to discard 75 pairs of shoulder pads that the last time they were manufactured was 1987. So those needed to go. So she worked with him, and we went through our equipment and saw what needed to be replaced. And she's on her road right now. And then we hired 3 assistants that are teachers sort of on assignment after their day, and they're going to help with rotating between the junior high and high school, so they get to know the junior high athletics and the high school athletics. So we're building a framework for the future that they know. And then we hired the most important aspect, Vanessa Valenzuela, who is the district athletic director's administrative assistant. And she is going to be more important than I am, because she's the person that she goes to every meeting I go to, so that she's the sponge, so that if and when the reins need to be turned over, she's the person that's going to be the encyclopedia that everybody coming forward can get information. She's a wonderful young lady. She comes from us. She's had great experience at Phoenix Union, larger districts, dealing with purchasing and all the things that she's going to need to do. And some of the things that we're running into, you know, as the obstacles when you bring change in, it's difficult for some people. Well, this is the way we used to do it, and now we have to do this, where everybody's under one umbrella. All the athletic facilities are now under our control, and, you know, making sure that what gyms are available and what are not falling, instead of individuals doing that, now it's one department. And I think our vision is, with our superintendent, we have created this vision, set forth that one department, for example, our football coach, cheer coach, whatever, they're no longer the high school, they're the district. And so everyone that falls in line all the way down through 6th, 7th grade, those coaches answer to that particular individual, was the way it should be. It's no different than when I was a principal, curriculum-wise. You wanted the junior high to be using the same curricular math series and language arts series, and that would be used in the high school, rather than having them start over. So that's what we're looking to make the transition smoother. Our high school coaches in the fall went down to junior high tryouts, so their faces were known to the youth, and that they know that this is what we want you to aspire to, is getting to the high school. So to make that transition a little bit better athletically, just as it should be academically. And I mean, in some cases we have challenges that have arisen that were unforeseen, just due to the fact that it's never been done before. So I can't say the job is underwhelming to what I expected, you know. So it's definitely met my challenges, you know. And I'm doing it because it's a way to give back, and I think that's important. And I think once we have done how we funded this is a little bit through creativity so that next year when they build an athletic budget for the district, we can have some exact parameters. And I think those were unknown before, so it was kind of hard to build them into a budget when you didn't know what was expected. But now, creating the last piece that I'm hoping when this goes out is we need to eventually get a certified trainer for our student athletes. To me, everything I've done is athletically driven. No one's making a lot of money doing what we're doing in our group. But that's the last piece. We want to have that sixth part, because Shola now is one of the largest districts up. It is largest up here, but pretty soon they could be going into 4A due to numbers. And when you look at what the other schools and even some larger 3A schools down in the desert have, I mean, trainers, equipment managers, and things like that. Yeah. And, you know, I think we need to move up to the times. And I think, you know, everybody sort of agreeing, it's just getting everybody on board and creating the vision and then some parameters for the vision, how we get there.
I hear you. I knew when we began to even talk about this and started putting this in the works, I knew it was going to be a change, and I knew that it was going to be difficult for some people, and which change always is. But the important thing, I think, or the thing that really stands out to me is that, I mean, even when I was back in high school, which has been 35 years ago or whatever now, you know, we had a trainer. We had a certified trainer.
Sure.
You know, we had a guy that was the equipment manager who was very, very picky about how our shoulder pads fit, the size of our thigh pads, you know, all that kind of stuff. Even, you know, when I was throwing shot, you know, they were wanting us to use the correct shoes and all those safety issues that made it to where we could be better athletes. And so I think that's really important for us. And I hate that you said we might be moving up to 4A, because I don't want to be that big, but the fact is, that's where we're going, right?
No, I mean, when you look at the communities busting out everywhere. In Arizona, people are moving, you know.
Yeah, people are moving.
It's a reality eventually, you know, if you don't, you know, prepare for it and it sneaks up on you. And that's what I don't want to happen to us, where it sneaks up. And all those things you mentioned are absolutely true. I can do you one better. I started high school, I graduated in 1968, so
I was 2 years old.
Yeah, we had a trainer. I mean, but it was, and so, I mean, again, everything we're trying to do is take some burden off our coaches. Our coaches are there to coach. I mean, it's a liability issue when they start dealing with injuries and stuff like that they're not trained to do. And that's why you want to have some, and the same thing with equipment. I mean, they might be great coaches, but they're not trained in fitting equipment. And then maintaining the equipment, the washing, and noticing when there's a tear, we fix it immediately so it doesn't become a bigger issue. All those things that equipment, I mean, some people don't realize the depth of what equipment manager does. Yeah. But if you would ever go to like a university and go in there and they have 4 or 5 guys and each one has their role because they want to look good, but it's all about safety and maintaining, and we need to get some things going. Like we'd like to get on a 3-year uniform rotation so that you know, our kids we know, the coaches know when they're going to get uniforms, and that they're well maintained, and the inventory, that you don't have 1 or 2 going missing, which when coaches sometimes have to do it when they're not their main focus, you know, they lose track, and all of a sudden the guy takes it home and mom washed it with something that was green and pink and a white uniform comes back. Yeah. I've seen it at all levels. I mean, or a rip happens and pretty soon the jersey can't be repaired. So yeah, I think every aspect, from the trainers down to the scheduling and everything, we're trying to get everybody to take a part, and so that we don't have one person just knowing everything and then these people in the dark. So as we move forward, if there's a question, that everybody has the same answers. We're working as a team. We meet every week, 8 o'clock in the morning on Fridays, to go over the next week's assignments and what everybody's doing, and so everybody knows what everybody else is doing, so that there's knowledge being spread everywhere.
Yeah, super. I think this is a great idea, great direction that we're headed. So can I ask why Sholo specifically? By the way, and continuing our thought process about us growing, you know, we're in a unique situation. One of the things that this whole COVID deal has brought us is that employers are now finding out that they can have a person stay at home and get the work done rather than having coming into an office. And so what I've seen here is I'm seeing people that say, why should I live in 120 degrees in Phoenix and work from home when I can live in Sholo in this gorgeous country and work from home, and my employer doesn't care where I live. And so I've seen that we've got some more people up here doing just that.
No, absolutely.
And so I anticipate the growth.
Yeah, and I think if we put our heads in the sand and we don't look ahead to the future, then we become unprepared. And I'm a guy, I want to always go in prepared. I always like to know the answer before I ask the question. You know, and it makes it easier. But that's through preparation and study and in everything. Now, do sometimes you get thrown that curveball? Absolutely, that's life. But you know, I think that's what we're trying to do is look and prepare and put the best program together. And again, it's all about the kids. I mean, we want to have our kids outfitted properly, we want them to be cared for properly, and we want them to be coached properly. And the same thing goes back to the classroom. And so it's just a continuation. I learned a long time ago, the best coaches are usually good teachers. I mean, I've had probably 12, 13 of my athletes, pro athletes. And some were great athletes, and some went on to be good coaches because they were good teachers. Others could not get what they really knew and how they performed and be able to articulate that to a young person as coaches, and they failed because they couldn't make that knowledge transfer. And I think that's important. And that's one of the things why I'm here. I summered here for years, and when this position, I started just lending my expertise to, and when the interview process is happening, your football coach is a guy who, Carlo Hernandez, who he's new. I knew his father for almost 50 years. His was a principal, gave back to the community a lot. I've known Carlo since he's probably been 8, 9 years old. His father came to me one time and he was in a bad program, and he knew we were a winning program. He said, would you hire my son? But didn't say hire, he said interview. Well, I knew I would hire. I knew what I was getting. And he then went on, and when I left one program, he took over the head coaching position. They went to the state championship game 5 times and won 2 of them. So he has a great football background, fundamentally first. And so when this position started, I saw it falling through the cracks. I felt it was my last hurrah. And then again, with me selling everything that was other important to me. It was a family business, so the person who I sold my company to kept everybody in my family employed, intact, just wanted, and the name we had built up with a reputation, so it was an easy transfer. So my family was taken care of, and then I didn't need the building real estate. So once I did that, it was a chance to do something, one last hurrah. At 71 years old, it's my last sort of way to give back.
So here we are in Sholo.
Yeah, here we are in Sholo.
And here we are in Sholo, and we're going to try to develop a program that's going to be advantageous to the kids.
Absolutely.
Tell me, where do you see us? When I say us, where do you see this athletic department in? Is 5 years too far down the road?
Well, my goals are, I have 5-year goals, but I try to accomplish the 5-year goals, let's just say, in 2. So one of my visions, and I know I took Mr. Housley's, some of what he told me what his vision was, and I actually was at that event the other evening, the Youth Coalition that was a big fundraiser for youth, which I think is amazing for a community like this. I'm looking forward to playing in their golf tournament coming up here later in September. But to me, what I envision is we are the largest school. We should be setting the example for the rest, so that not to knock any of the surrounding schools, but when they look at Sholo, they're looking at a school that's progressive and going forward.
A leader.
What's that?
A leader. We want to lead out.
Exactly.
We don't want to follow.
be a follower.
Yeah.
We want to be a leader. And to be a leader, you have to step forward. You have to take some chances. One of the things I'm really looking forward to meeting the city manager. I met him the other night, but I'm talking about sitting down with him because I envision Sholo by next football season, I would love to see us playing on a turf field. And a lot of people say, well, that's extravagant. Actually, it's not. In fact, it's physically more productive from a financial standpoint, because most districts now, for example, Prescott High School just went to a turf field. When you look at the longevity of the facility and what it costs to maintain, especially in the valley, you're looking at water, fertilizer, the manpower, the machinery it takes to maintain a field. Usually in about 7 years it pays for itself, so the length of the and I think...
How long does a field last?
Oh, the field should be 12 to 14 years, depending on the use, obviously. But this field would get used. I mean, with youth football playing on the field, the city, like one of the first activities with the 4th of July activities. So if that's a turf field. And I think then it would bring more activities to that stadium. We'd like to bring soccer into the stadium. So when they go down to playing a state playoff games, or they play somebody who has a turf field, they practice on the turf field, they play on it. When football goes to play someone who has a turf field, they do it. When they play a grass field, we have both. So I think it's advantageous for the athletes as well, plus the longevity. We're not worried about, like right now, we're keeping everybody off the field. We have this big scrimmage. Well, when you get the use on a grass field, and especially with the type of rain we've had, the wear and tear in the field. And I see it in the valley all the time because soccer is played at the same time as football. So you see the field being, almost worn out. I mean, not at the same time, but right after football, I should say.
Right.
And so what you'd see...
It doesn't get a rest.
It doesn't get a rest.
That grass never gets a rest.
Right, and then you have spring football. So with up here, with playing at the same time, then I would believe, I believe that soccer has great facilities, but wouldn't it be nice to have a soccer game in front of all the fans and have announcers there and be able to do what the football kids get? And same thing with track meets and all the activities that can then happen on a turf field. It's endless. So I believe, and then if we did that, we'd like to turf the infield of the baseball field at the same time, because you get a truer bounce, and then the outfield maybe not so much because the grass, but the infield. So I believe that a combination of the city, the school district, and maybe some private funding, we could make that vision happen sooner than later. And why wait? Because again, I do believe in the long run, we're saving money by doing it. It's not just to be, hey, we have this beautiful facility. It is that, and it brings pride. I mean, one of the first things when I first came through here a long time ago, bringing a football team, we stopped to practice at the Sholo Park right as you come into town. And I always admired how well the parks were kept and the maintenance of your parks. And so I think that just leads into something like this. That would be the pride of the mountain, to have that first turf field, and because of what it does for a pride essence, but what it does more for the youth and the use from everybody. Our junior high plays their games there, and right now we got to regulate how often. I know they've already had the youth programs play games there. Well, when you do that repetitively, you're gonna wear out a little bit. Where with that, it's so durable, and then the upkeep is so easy. I mean, you get they basically like a vacuum cleaner, they sweep it, and other than that, and once you put the lines on it, that's the other thing you're not doing. You're not relining it. You're not doing all those other things that cost money maintenance-wise. It's manpower and labor. So that's definitely in my short. It was out there maybe 2, 3, and now I'm thinking, because everyone I talk to says, "Oh yeah, we need to have that. We need to have that." Well, what's going to do to make it happen? And we'll see. But that's just one of the bigger things. And then like putting the uniforms on a 3-year rotation, so there's not the haves and the have-nots. And treating all the athletes from junior high through high school equally, that they have the same type of equipment from a safety standpoint, and that they look good. And I always was a coach, and as a principal, I wanted my students, if you look good, you have potentially a little bit of pride, and you play a little bit better. I mean, the uniform doesn't play, but it sure helps the attitude of the player who's wearing it.
Sure, sure. When you say a 3-year rotation, those high school, I mean, would they hand down to the other?
Yes, that's why you have a decent uniform going down. And especially, a lot of times say, well, why 3 years? For example, I used to get the example like basketball, track, some of those sports that there's not the wear and tear like there is on a baseball pant or a football jersey.
Sliding and whatnot.
Yeah. Or softball pant. So there are some of those that, like the wrestling, even with the constant grabbing and doing things like that. But what it does is some manufacturers, if you, for example, in my company, we would get these schools that maybe would have a certain contract, like a Nike contract. Well, Nike will make one set of uniforms. They won't make those maybe for 2 years. The third year, if you wanted to replace 3 jerseys, you either had to buy a whole new set or go in a different direction. So I think sometimes it's style, but sometimes it's wear and tear. When you're in a baseball pant for 3 years, I'll guarantee you it's patched and doing something like that.
Yeah.
Same thing with a football uniform.
Well, John, thanks for
having me.
Thanks for taking your time and spending time with us. I'm excited to see where this goes. Wish you all the luck in the world.
Well, thank you.
You know what they say about luck? It's opportunity.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah?
You make your own luck.
Yeah, right. Thanks for joining us here on the School Zone, and we'll see you again soon.